The gunshot echoed across the empty plains like thunder, startling Cole Kincaid's horse, as he crested the hill overlooking what should have been a thriving homestead. Instead, smoke curled from the blackened remains of a once proud cabin, the fences around it broken and scattered like matchsticks. Arizona Territory, 1878, was unforgiving to those who dared tame it, but this destruction wasn't nature's work, it was deliberate and cruel. Cole steadied his chestnut stallion with a gentle hand. "Easy there, Rusty," he murmured, squinting against the harsh afternoon sun. His trail-worn face, browned by years under the southwestern sky, hardened as he surveyed the devastation. At 32, he'd seen his share of frontier tragedies, but something about this one gripped his heart with unusual ferocity. A movement near the scorched ruins caught his eye, a woman in a soot-stained dress, kneeling amid the wreckage. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs as she clutched something to her chest. Even from this distance, her despair was palpable, hanging in the air like the acrid smoke. Cole hesitated only a moment before guiding Rusty down the slope. He wasn't looking for trouble or attachment. He'd been riding west toward California, chasing rumors of ranch work and a fresh start. But he couldn't simply ride past suffering this raw. As he approached, he noted details missed from afar. The woman's hair was a rich auburn, tumbling in disheveled waves down her back. Beside her lay a small grave marked with a crude wooden cross, and what she clutched was a charred picture frame, its contents indiscernible. She didn't look up until Rusty's hooves were nearly upon her. When she did, Cole found himself staring into eyes the color of summer sage, red-rimmed and haunted. "Madam," he said, removing his hat respectfully, "Cole Kincaid, don't mean to intrude on your grief." She straightened, wiping tears with the back of her hand. Despite her dishevelment, there was a dignity in her posture that spoke of inner strength. "Nora Riley," she replied, her voice hoarse but steady. "My husband's under that cross. Raiders came 3 days ago. Took everything, burned what they couldn't carry." She gestured to the ruins. 10 years of work, gone. Cole dismounted, letting Rusty's reins hang loose. The horse wouldn't wander. "Raiders? Apaches?" "No." Her jaw tightened. "White men, cattlemen who want this valley. They've been pressuring homesteaders to sell for months." Her eyes flashed with momentary fire. "James refused." Cole nodded slowly, understanding the old story too well, the endless war between open-range cattlemen and fence-building farmers. He'd seen it play out bloody across Texas and now here in Arizona. "You alone out here?" he asked, though the answer seemed obvious. "Now I am." Nora stood, brushing dirt from her skirts with trembling hands. "Nearest neighbors 15 miles, town's a day's ride." She looked at the ruins of her home and her voice faltered. "I should leave, I know. There's nothing left." Cole studied the devastation, then the woman standing amidst it. There was something about her, a flicker of defiance beneath the grief that stirred something long dormant in him. Before he could consider the implications, words escaped his mouth. "I'll build it again with you." Nora turned, disbelief etching her features. "What did you say?" Cole cleared his throat, surprised at himself but unwilling to retract the offer. "I said I'll help rebuild, if that's what you want." "Why would you?" Suspicion narrowed her eyes. "You don't know me." "No," he agreed, "but I know what it's like to lose everything." He gestured to the scorched earth. "And I know how to build, worked as a carpenter before I took to ranching." "I can't pay you," she said flatly. "Not asking for payment." Cole shifted, uncomfortable with her scrutiny but holding her gaze. "Just passing through, had no particular place to be. Figure this is as good a cause as any." Nora studied him for a long moment, sizing him up like she might appraise a horse checking for hidden faults and true worth. Cole stood still under her examination, his weathered hat in his hands. Finally, her shoulders sagged slightly. "There's a creek behind what's left of the barn," she said. "Water's clean, you can make camp there if you're serious." It wasn't acceptance exactly, but it wasn't rejection either. Cole nodded, respecting her caution. "I'll start clearing debris tomorrow if that suits you." That night, Cole made a simple camp by the creek, the stars brilliant overhead in the clear desert sky. He'd shared his provisions with Nora, who had salvaged a cast iron skillet and a few supplies from the ruins. They ate in near silence, separated by the small fire and the weight of strangers' wariness. "How long were you married?" Cole finally asked, breaking the heavy silence. 11 years. Nora's gaze remained fixed on the flames. James was a good man, stubborn as the day is long, but good. Her hands twisted in her lap. "We came out here from Pennsylvania, had dreams of our own land, our own place. You had children?" He regretted the question immediately as pain flashed across her face. "Almost." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Lost 3 before they drew breath. The last one took something from me the doctor said couldn't be fixed." Her eyes lifted, challenging him to offer pity. Cole merely nodded, understanding loss too well to diminish it with empty words. "I'm sorry." They lapsed back into silence, but something had shifted, a small trust established in shared vulnerability. Dawn found Cole already at work, sorting through the burned timbers, salvaging what could be reused and setting aside what would need to be replaced. Nora appeared as the sun crested the eastern hills, her hair tied back, wearing trousers that must have belonged to her husband, rolled at the ankles and cinched tight at the waist. "Those men might come back," she said without preamble, handing him a cup of coffee she'd brewed over her small fire. "They might," Cole agreed, accepting the cup. "But I doubt it'll be soon. They got what they wanted, thought they scared you off. And if they do return," her eyes met his, unflinching. Cole touched the Colt revolver at his hip. "I've handled worse." They worked together through that day and the next, clearing debris, salvaging nails, making plans. Cole rode into the nearest town, Copper Springs, and returned with supplies, enough lumber for framing, tools they lacked, seeds for replanting. He didn't tell Nora he'd spent nearly all his saved wages on these necessities. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked him on the 3rd evening as they sat exhausted by the campfire, their hands raw from labor. Cole considered the question, watching the flames dance. "Maybe I'm tired of just passing through places," he said finally. "Maybe I want to build something that lasts for once. And when it's built," her question hung between them, loaded with unspoken implications. "That'll be for you to decide," he answered honestly. "It's your land." As days stretched into weeks, a structure began to take shape where only ashes had been, a cabin larger and sturdier than the original. Cole designed it with careful consideration. Thick walls to keep out winter cold and summer heat, windows positioned to catch cross breezes, a stone fireplace that wouldn't easily catch the roof ablaze. They settled into a rhythm, working from dawn till dusk. Nora proved herself no stranger to hard labor, her slender arms growing stronger, her fair skin tanning beneath the relentless sun. She rarely spoke of her husband, but occasionally Cole would catch her standing by the small grave, lips moving in silent communion with the departed. "He would have liked you," she told Cole unexpectedly one evening as they shared a rabbit stew. James believed in measuring men by their actions, not their words. Cole nodded, unexpectedly pleased by this assessment. "Sounds like a man of sense." He was. Nora's smile held sadness, but no longer the raw grief of those first days. "But he could never build worth a damn, would have hammered his thumb 10 times making what you've done." Cole chuckled, and to his surprise, Nora joined him the first time he'd heard her laugh. The sound transformed her face, making her appear younger, unburdened. Something warm and dangerous unfurled in Cole's chest at the sight. 6 weeks into the building, trouble finally found them. Cole was setting roof beams when he spotted dust on the horizon, riders approaching fast. He called a warning to Nora, who was tending the vegetable garden she'd replanted. "Get the rifle," he said calmly, climbing down from the roof. "Stay inside what we've built." She nodded, her face grim but unafraid. Cole checked his revolver and waited in the yard, stance relaxed but prepared. 4 riders approached, rough-looking men with the dust of hard travel on them. Cole recognized the type, immediately hired guns, not ranchers themselves. "Afternoon," called the lead rider, a tall man with a face like cured leather. "Looking for the Riley place. Found it," Cole replied evenly. The leader's eyes narrowed as he took in the half-built cabin and the cleared land. "Heard this place burned down, heard the widow cleared out." "Heard wrong," Cole said, his hand resting casually near his holster. "That's so." The man spat tobacco juice onto the dirt. "Well, Mr. Blackwater's mighty interested in this property, sent us to make sure it was available for purchase." Cole didn't miss the implied threat. "It's not." "And who might you be?" The leader's hand drifted toward his own weapon. "Someone who doesn't appreciate uninvited guests." Cole's voice remained even, but his eyes hardened. "The Riley land isn't for sale. Mrs. Riley still holds the deed, and she's not interested in Mr. Blackwater's offer." The tension stretched taut between them until Nora's voice cut through it. "Your boss tried persuading my husband." She stepped forward, rifle held competently in her hands. "It didn't end well for anyone. Tell Blackwater if he wants this land, he'll need to come himself next time, and bring the sheriff." The lead rider assessed the situation, two determined defenders, one with a rifle already aimed, the other clearly comfortable with the six-shooter at his hip. After a tense moment, he tugged his hat lower. "Just delivering a message, madam. No harm intended." He turned his horse. "But Blackwater don't give up easy on what he wants." "Neither do I," Nora replied steadily. They watched the riders disappear back over the horizon before lowering their weapons. "Blackwater," Cole said thoughtfully. "Big rancher, the biggest in 3 counties, Nora confirmed. Been buying up homesteads all through the valley. Uses the drought to pressure people, offers water rights in exchange for land." Her jaw tightened. "Those who refuse tend to have accidents," Cole nodded grimly. "They'll be back." "Yes." Nora looked at the half-finished cabin, determination hardening her features. "But we'll be ready." The "we" didn't escape Cole's notice, nor the way it settled comfortably between them. That evening, they made preparations, moving supplies into more defensible positions, setting up a watch rotation. As they worked, Cole found himself watching Nora, the efficient movements of her hands, the resolute set of her jaw, the occasional loose strand of auburn hair that caught the fading sunlight. "You could still leave," she said suddenly, catching his gaze. "This isn't your fight." Cole considered his response carefully. "Seems to me some fights choose you, not the other way around." "And is that what happened here? This fight chose you?" Her eyes searched his, looking for something beyond his words. "No," he admitted quietly. "You did." The admission hung between them, honest and unadorned. Nora's breath caught, and for a heartbeat, Cole thought he'd overstepped. Then she moved closer, her calloused hand finding his. "I'm glad," she whispered, and the simple words carried more meaning than flowery declarations ever could. They worked through the night to finish the cabin's roof, sealing it against the possibility of rain. By dawn, exhaustion had settled into their bones, but the structure now offered real shelter. They slept in shifts, one always keeping watch, but the day passed without incident. As evening approached again, Cole rode the perimeter of the property, checking for signs of trespassers. He found none, but the unease wouldn't leave him. Something was coming, he could feel it in the air like the electric charge before a thunderstorm. When he returned, he found Nora sitting on the new porch steps, staring out at the sunset painting the desert in impossible shades of orange and purple. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she said as he settled beside her. "That's what James always said, even when the land tries to kill you with drought or storm, it gives you these moments that make you forgive everything." Cole nodded, understanding precisely what she meant. "My father used to say God painted his best pictures where fewest people would see them." Nora smiled at that. Wise man. Sometimes, Cole admitted, when he wasn't drinking himself blind. He rarely spoke of his family, but here with her the words came easier. "Lost him and my mother to fever when I was 17, been moving ever since." "Until now," she observed quietly. "Until now," he agreed, their shoulders touching lightly as they watched darkness claim the land. That night, Lightning split the sky, and rain pounded the new roof, the first substantial rainfall in months. They sat inside by the stone fireplace, listening to the storm's fury while remaining dry and secure in what they'd built together. "I never properly thanked you," Nora said, her face illuminated by firelight as thunder rolled overhead. "For stopping that day, for staying." Cole shook his head. "No need for thanks." "There is," she insisted, moving closer on the bench they shared. "You could have ridden past, most would have." "I couldn't," he said simply, the truth of it resonating in his chest. From that first moment, seeing her kneeling in the ashes of her former life, something had connected them, a recognition of kindred spirits, perhaps, or simply the right souls meeting at the right moment. When her hand found his in the flickering light, it seemed the most natural progression imaginable. And when she leaned forward, her lips meeting his with gentle question, he answered with equal tenderness. The kiss deepened slowly, neither rushing what both sensed was a crossing from which there would be no return. When they finally parted, Nora's eyes held questions and wonder in equal measure. "I never expected this," she whispered. "After James, I thought that part of me was finished." Cole brushed a strand of hair from her face, his touch reverent. "Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it." They talked through the night, sharing pieces of themselves previously kept hidden. Cole's dreams of a ranch of his own someday, Nora's childhood in Pennsylvania coal country, their shared love of open spaces and starry skies. By morning, something profound had shifted between them, a foundation laid as solid as the one beneath their cabin. The storm passed, leaving behind mud and renewal in equal measure. As they stepped outside to assess any damage, a rainbow arched across the eastern sky, a promise, Cole thought, though of what exactly he couldn't say. 2 days later, as they were installing the cabin's front door, riders appeared again on the horizon, more this time, at least a dozen. "Get inside," Cole said, but Nora stood her ground beside him. "Not this time," she replied, rifle already in hand. "This is my land, I won't hide on it." They stood together on the porch of the nearly completed cabin as the riders approached. At their head rode a heavy-set man on a magnificent black stallion, Blackwater himself, Cole surmised, flanked by the same hired guns from before and several others. "Mrs. Riley," the man called as they drew near, tipping his hat with false courtesy. "I see rumors of your departure were greatly exaggerated." "As were rumors of my willingness to sell, Mr. Blackwater," Nora replied coolly. Blackwater's gaze shifted to Cole, assessing. "And you found yourself protection, I see." "A friend," Nora corrected. "One who believes in a person's right to keep what's rightfully theirs." Blackwater dismounted, his expensive boots sinking slightly in the mud. "I admire your determination, madam, truly I do, but this land will be mine eventually. The railroad's coming through next year, and I've already secured the water rights upstream." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You'll be high and dry by summer's end." Cole stepped forward. "Seems to me the law might be interested in how you've been persuading homesteaders, Blackwater." "The law," Blackwater laughed. "Sheriff Mason is an old friend, very understanding about the needs of progress." He gestured expansively. "I'm offering fair price for the land, double what your husband paid. You won't get better." "Not interested," Nora stated firmly. Blackwater's expression hardened. "I tried civility, remember that." He turned to his men. "Burn it down." Again. What happened next unfolded with startling speed. As the men reached for their weapons, Cole drew and fired in one fluid motion, sending Blackwater's hat flying from his head. The rancher froze, eyes wide with shock. "Next one won't miss," Cole promised, his voice deadly calm. "Now, there's something you should know before this goes any further. Before I came west, I rode with the Texas Rangers. Got friends still wearing the badge who'd be mighty interested in a telegraph about your business practices." It was a calculated risk, revealing part of his past he rarely discussed, but the effect was immediate. Uncertainty flickered across Blackwater's face. "Could be lying," one of the hired guns muttered. Could be, Cole agreed. Or I could have sent that telegraph 3 days ago when your boys first paid us a visit. It was a bluff, but one delivered with perfect conviction. Ranger Captain Williams sends his regards, by the way. Says he's overdue for a visit to Arizona Territory. The name drop of a real Texas Ranger Cole had indeed served had its intended effect. Doubt spread among Blackwater's men like ripples in a pond. There's easier land to be had, Cole continued reasonably. Land without complications or potential investigations. Might be wise to pursue those options instead. Blackwater's eyes narrowed, calculating rapidly. Finally, he nodded curtly. Perhaps we can come to some arrangement regarding water rights, a negotiation between neighbors. Perhaps, Nora agreed cautiously, but not at gunpoint. Very well. Blackwater remounted his horse. We'll continue this discussion another time under more civilized circumstances. He tipped his hat stiffly. Good day, Mrs. Riley. They watched the riders depart, neither lowering their weapons until the dust cloud had disappeared over the horizon. Texas Ranger, Nora turned to Cole, eyebrow raised. Former, he clarified, left the service 3 years ago. And Captain Williams, a smile tugged at Cole's lips. Real enough, though I doubt he remembers me specifically from among his hundreds of men. Nora laughed softly, the tension breaking. You're a surprising man, Cole Kincaid. Had to be, he replied, holstering his weapon. Out here, surprise is sometimes all you've got. They both knew Blackwater hadn't surrendered, merely retreated to reconsider his approach. But they'd won valuable time and, perhaps more importantly, planted seeds of doubt about the ease of taking the Riley homestead. Over the next week, they completed the cabin, furnishing it with a mixture of salvaged items and new purchases from town. Cole rode to Copper Springs again, this time sending an actual telegraph to his former ranger associates, requesting information about Blackwater and discreetly mentioning the situation. When he returned, he found Nora had prepared a special dinner to celebrate the cabin's completion. By lamplight, they shared a meal of venison stew and cornbread, the table set with Nora's salvaged china plates chipped but treasured. I've been thinking, Nora said as they finished eating. About what happens next. Cole waited, his heart suddenly pounding uncomfortably in his chest. This land needs more than just a cabin, she continued. It needs fences mending, fields planting, livestock. Her eyes met his steadily. It needs a partner who believes in it, not just a hired hand. Are you offering me a job, Mrs. Riley? Cole asked carefully. No. Her hand found his across the table. I'm offering you a home if you want it. The words hung between them, weighted with possibility. Cole turned her hand in his, tracing the calluses that matched his own. I've never stayed in one place long, he admitted. Never found anywhere that felt right. And now, her voice was soft, vulnerable in a way she rarely allowed. Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. The truth of it settled in his chest, certain and unwavering, but there would be talk, a widow and a drifter. Nora's chin lifted slightly. Let them talk, or, she hesitated. There's another solution. Cole's breath caught as he understood her meaning. Nora, are you sure? It's been less than 3 months since I lost James, she finished gently. Yes, and I'll always carry him here. She touched her heart. But he would want me to live, Cole. To find happiness again. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I wasn't looking for this for you, but now that I've found you, I don't want to let go. Cole rose from his chair, moving around the table to kneel beside her. Taking both her hands in his, he looked up into the face that had become more precious to him than any treasure. Nora Riley, I rode past an empty homestead and found the most courageous woman I've ever known. I promised to help you rebuild, never imagining I'd be rebuilding my own life in the process. He took a deep breath. I love you, and if you'll have me, I'll spend every day making this land and you thrive. Her answer came not in words, but in the way she drew him up and into her arms, her lips finding his with certainty and promise. They were married 2 weeks later in Copper Springs, the small church filled with curious townspeople, and a few neighboring homesteaders who had come to support Nora. The telegraph Cole had sent bore fruit. A letter arrived from the Texas Rangers, expressing interest in Blackwater's activities and promising an investigator would visit the territory soon. That knowledge, combined with subtle rumors Cole helped spread about Ranger attention to the area, was enough to keep Blackwater at bay. When the rancher eventually approached them again, it was with genuine negotiation over water rights rather than threats. By their first anniversary, the Riley homestead, now the Kincaid Riley farm, had expanded. A proper barn stood where the burned-out shell had been, housing 2 milk cows, Rusty, and a gentle mare Cole had bought for Nora. Fields of wheat stretched golden under the Arizona sun, and fruit trees planted along the creek promised future harvests. On a warm evening in April 1880, Cole found Nora standing on their porch, watching the sunset with a serene expression on her face. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands coming to rest protectively over the gentle swell of her belly. "Doctor says everything looks perfect," she told him, leaning back against his chest. "Come October, we'll be 3 instead of 2. Cole pressed his lips to her temple, overwhelmed by gratitude. "I never thought I'd have this," he confessed. "A home, a family, purpose." Nora turned in his arms, her face radiant with the inner glow of impending motherhood, "All because you stopped to help a weeping widow." "Best decision I ever made," he murmured against her lips. Later that night, as Nora slept peacefully beside him, Cole lay awake, marveling at the journey that had brought him here. He thought of the man he'd been just 2 years earlier, rootless, directionless, always looking toward the next horizon without fully seeing what lay before him. Now, his world had contracted to this land, this home, this woman, and somehow, in that contraction, had expanded beyond measure. The promise he'd made that first day, standing amid ashes and devastation, had been fulfilled in ways he could never have imagined. They had built it again. Yes, not just a cabin, but a life. Together. Outside, under the vast Arizona sky, the land stretched, waiting for tomorrow's light, no longer empty, but filled with promise.